Hey, good morning. Let's go over today's trade plan. So in the overnight session, we saw that ES balanced within a range with responsive sellers active at that 81 to 83 resistance. At this point, heading into the open, keep an eye on the 74.75 to 76.75 pre-market support, as well as the 77.5 high volume node. If the buyers are really going to maintain the reversal that we saw yesterday, then ideally we want to see ES holding above the pre-market support zone and above the 77.5 high volume node. On the upside, 81.83 continues to be short-term resistance, but if we're holding 77.50, if we're breaking back above the previous VPOC of 79.25, and there is sufficient upside momentum, then we could be setting up for a continuation move beyond 81.83 for a test of 85.25 to 86.25 and potentially 88.75 to 90.75. So how the market responds to the 77.5 high volume node, the pre-market support, and the previous VPOC at 79.25 is really going to help set the tone and the bias on the day. In the event of a failure and a breakdown below pre-market support, the next area of support is 68 to 70, but at that point it really depends on how the day is setting up and whether we're seeing excess weakness or whether it's still a fairly balanced market and we're not seeing any broad market weakness. The other markets are still holding up. And if ES is exhausted into 68.70, then at the very minimum, we can expect a response. So at this point, the support zone at 68.70 is a valid area of support, but it does call for discretion in real time. So we have to see how the market is approaching it and whether the target off that zone is going to be good enough to justify taking the risk. Below that, we have yesterday's low at 65.5, which essentially marks the recent balance area low at this point. And finally, we have stronger support at 59 to 61. And that's still an area where on first test, responsive buyers can be active. So off the open, just keep an eye on the 74.75 to 76.75 zone, the 77.5 high volume node. How the ES responds and behaves at this area is really going to help set the tone for the day. Bigger picture, we are still in a fairly balanced market. The larger time frame bias continues to be bullish, but short term, the market is simply balancing within a range, and we're in the middle of the range right now. 77.50 marks the high volume node of this recent balance, so really it can tip in either direction, and that's why our short-term bias continues to be neutral, because the market is very range bound, and it can really tip to the upside as long as pre-market support holds and the high volume node holds. Then we can go up and test 85.25 to 86.25 and possibly even 88.75 to 90.75. But if there's a failure there and we're not seeing any upside momentum, or if we're seeing just outright weakness on the underlying internals and the Russell starts pulling back a bit more, then we need to be careful, and that could set us up for a move down into 68 to 70 and possibly even lower. So we're going to go ahead and maintain that neutral bias as long as the market is stuck in a range, and we are going to have to pay more attention to what's happening in real time to determine which side is really being dominant. So 74.75 to 76.75 can serve as the micro bull bear zone immediately off the open. So those are really the main ideas heading into the open. Let's see if the buy side can hold ES above pre-market support and the 77.5 high volume node. That's really going to help set the bias and tone on day, and we'll take it from there.